just say, screw it. I'm going to try this. I don't know if it's going to work out or not, but I feel compelled to do this. And when those little voices pop in, that's what I say.
The future of dentistry belongs to the innovators. Welcome to Innovation in Dentistry. I'm your host, Shawn Zajas, and I believe that the future of dentistry is going to be unbelievably great over the next decade and 2 decades. But the question isn't that. The question is, are you going to be part of what makes dentistry great? I could not be more excited because today I get to interview Vanessa Emerson. Vanessa, you are a dear friend, but I just look up to you and admire you for so much of what you're doing in dentistry, including, but not limited to, holding amazing events. So I'm going to tee you up in a moment, but before, let me just welcome you and say thank you so much for letting me interview you today.
I'm so honored to be, honestly. I mean, is this what everybody says? But truly, it's an honor. It's an honor to be asked. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So the reason why I think you're perfect for this, Vanessa, is because I tell people this all the time. I really am excited and really intrigued by all sorts of innovation, clinical innovation, technological innovation. But it's my belief that everything starts from some sort of a belief set or mindset innovation first. Like there is no clinical innovation without someone actually believing that they can step up, that they can pioneer, and someone that's like almost like wild enough to be like, why not me? And you lead, you are on stage, you bring people together. You're a speaker, you're an author, and you are pioneering positive change. How in the world did you get into dentistry and get to where you're at today? And now, and you don't need to handle everything in this one because I'm going to have a lot more questions, but just kind of like, I don't even know, like, were you a dental professional at any point in time?
No. It was divine intervention. We'll just start right there. We'll go to divine with the capital D. But it truly was. I had worked in general surgery for many years and had my surgeon that I worked with, Dr. Hyatt, had he not retired for the second time in his 70s, his wife kicked him out of her kitchen the first time around. She said, get back to work. And I figured he probably wasn't coming back to work again. So I went ahead and looked for other employment. And that's when I ran across Catherine Eitel-Belt, who probably I would anticipate many in your audience will know Catherine and her Lions Speak programs. And she hired me. You know, what is so funny, we're recording this early in June, and it's actually literally like the week I was hired, June 3rd of 2001. And everything shifted for me, though I didn't know it at that time. I came out of general surgery where I was lucky enough in a small community to be able to hold the laparoscope and belly surgeries and help, with all sorts of in-office procedures, as well as be office manager and do the billing and get patients into the room. It's like, you wear all the hats in those small offices. And I would still be there. So I came out of that into speaking and consulting and dentistry. It's like, what is that? I mean, what is it? The reason I wanted to work with Catherine was because I liked her. It wasn't that I knew anything about dentistry or speaking and consulting. And so over the last 22 years now, it's not nuts how fast it goes. I've learned a few things about speaking and consulting. A little bit.
So June 3rd, 2001, you said?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Okay. So what I love about this is that you're basically saying like, you didn't have to strive or make something happen. You just followed almost like the way that you are wired or created. And there was something in you that just liked her as a person. So you're like a people first person, and you were attracted to, I don't know. I mean, Catherine, it's so easy to be attracted to her. Like she is such an amazing woman. And I did have the pleasure of interviewing her, and she actually spoke incredibly highly of you. No surprise. So it's so neat to have such amazing people that all regard each other in such high esteem. But there you were in dentistry, more on the, administrative, coordinative.
Way out on the edge.
Yeah, on the edge.
I was like, I would get my teeth cleaned, You know what I mean? I was like, that was all I knew about dentistry.
But I mean, how did you even end up in dentistry, like to begin with? Because I feel like
Well,
it's a very strange and glorious field.
it really is, and I really do believe that it was my dharma. I believe it was life path. I never in a million years would have chosen dentistry. I appreciate so many people that do enjoy working with patients in dentistry. Like I worked in general surgery, they were asleep when, when we worked with them. It's a whole different thing, right? I just never would have chosen dentistry, and then come to find out that I really think it attracts the very best people in the whole world. Just the biggest, like servant-minded, big centered, heart-centered, um, wonderful people in dentistry. It's a great place to be. I'm so excited. But I think at the core, what you were asking me is like, well, how, why, like what brought me here? It was, yes, when she opened the door, there was a like, oh my gosh, I like her. Like, I think this would be a fascinating job. I think I would learn a lot. But I'm just going to go there because I feel like our questions are already going there. I really believe in my gut that it was the right next step for me. For me, not like with some idea of becoming a leader. And it's so interesting that you call me that because I don't see myself that way. But I also see that often leaders don't, right? Because we're just like out there trying to accomplish certain things. And so I really feel like when I walked away from that first interview, I felt cold. I felt pulled and I didn't know why. And, to continue that story, Catherine and I worked together for about 12 years. And as we got a couple of years into it, we were finding success with getting her book to speak more, to get more consulting clients. And her colleagues took notice and started asking, well, how are you guys doing that? And so she asked if I would mind sharing with them what we were doing. And that's really how my business started, was just like telling people, well, here's how we created her speaker packet. And here's how we're reaching out to meeting planners. And here's how we're finding dental offices to consult with. And then they would tell me, well, you should really coach. You should really. I'm like, no, I don't want to be a coach. I don't want to teach people how to do marketing. Well, that's where it all went.
Oh, I think that's crazy because like so many of the people that I talk to, I don't know, Vanessa, they almost feel incomplete and they have this like incessant drive to somehow get to some mountaintop. And here I feel like you got pulled. Like, and I'm not saying people pulled it. I'm just saying like, yeah, call it God. Like you got like brought into that place where you were called almost like, I don't know, the light that you're meant to shine, you were
Yeah.
able to shine it. And and I'm sure there was some struggle along the way, and I'm actually going to dig into that. But it also seems like there was just a lot of grace on
Yes.
this 22 years.
Well, and I think too, what hasn't been said that should be said, and I guess so. It makes me think I get emotional, right? When I start thinking about how lucky was I to be able to work with Catherine. I mean, honestly, because I see her as such a incredible leader in speaking and consulting dentistry for, gosh, she's probably over 30 years now in the field. And so I feel like how lucky was I to be able to learn from her. She has so many examples of grace and leadership as well. So I feel like, you know, um, I think we're it was just part of what was yet to unfold down the road. I didn't set out to create Dental Speaker Institute or, do the different things that we have done through the years to help speakers and consultants. It's just naturally unfolded. And I think that partly that's because I'm a connector. I some of my I get so excited about connecting people. I just love it when you tell me you're interested in getting in front of more people with your product. It's like, okay, well, who can we connect you with? It's just so fun to be able to connect people with people and people with solutions.
So Vanessa, like I as I'm listening to you now, it's fascinating because it's like I'm putting the dots together. Like two people I've interviewed already have mentioned you and how you were such a pivotal part of how they got to the platform that they have, how
Oh,
their influence got maximized and how they were able to level up. And here you are sharing that Catherine was able to do that for you. Like here, there
Oh
was a mentor,
yeah.
there was someone in your life that was able to like, yes, Vanessa, I see something in you and I'm able to cultivate and nurture it and talk about how she was able to raise you up. And then you, I mean, yes, through your actual, institute, but just relationships, one on one.
Mhm.
There's other young women, and I'm sure it's not just women, but young women that you have already raised up that are like, man, I wouldn't be here where I'm at right now if Vanessa didn't just believe in me and say, you've got this. This is a strength that you have. So
Mhm.
I know you don't know I'm connecting the dots because you don't know who I've talked to. But Vanessa, that is amazing. Like it's such a legacy for Catherine. It's almost like in football, there's coaching trees. There's like
Mhm.
Bill Parcells, and he's responsible for Bill Belichick, who then is responsible for Nick Saban. And there's all these like people are fascinated by who learned from who and how greatness just continues. And in the same exact way, because Catherine and had such a great thing going, all of a sudden now your reach and the message and just the way you're able to elevate and speak into other women's life. Like I'm sure
You
you
know,
knew that, but
but you know,
I don't know. How is that just hearing that right now?
you know what? Thank you. I know what I want to acknowledge is I feel like Catherine and I are both giving back because there were others that came before us that reached down and pulled us up. You know, so when I finally decided, okay, I'll start coaching, but I don't really want to teach speakers how to be speakers. I don't really want to teach them marketing. I want to teach them. I want to be a life coach. I kind of kicked and fought against what obviously had to happen at some point, but I put together an advertisement and sent out an email, and within an hour, I had received an email back from Linda Miles. Do you know who Linda Miles is? She's
I
a
have also heard her
pioneer.
name a few times, and I've still not had the pleasure of
Wow.
meeting her. I know she's not quite as active as she's been in the past, but I heard she's like the OG of
She
speaking
really
in
is.
dentistry.
She really is. And, Linda has paved the way and opened doors for, I would probably guess, thousands, not exaggerating. I'm sure it's many, 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 many hundreds of speakers and consultants because she did come first. And so she reached out to me, and it was at the time where she was just starting to get ready to retire. And she said, I'd like to hire you to help me with this transition. And you and I both know I didn't know diddly. At that point, I just hung out a sign. I'm like, okay, I'll be a coach. I'm really passionate about like philosophy and spirituality and things like that because I've been a student of self development for probably 30 years now. And so I'm like, well, I'll take some of what I've learned with all these different teachers, and I'll be a life coach. That was back in the day before it was really easy to get certain. Like now there's certifications everywhere, but those years ago it wasn't. And so I just kind of shook my head like, boy, she's really helping me out here. And she did. And Linda would tell people, yeah, Vanessa, help me. Even though we, she opened doors for me by doing that. And I feel that it feels good to help others. And it feels really good. And I just know that there have been so many others that have come before me that have reached down and said, "Sure, come on, be a part of this organization," or let me introduce you. One of the best ways we can grow our businesses, no matter what business we're in, is going to be with referrals. And so those introductions, like right now, Shawn, you're introducing me to your community. You're helping me out. You're connecting me, and it's really not hard to do. We just need to look for opportunities. What I found out along the way is actually I am a marketer, and actually I love marketing. And instead of kicking and fighting about, oh no, it's like too hard to figure out, we eventually, figured some things out, but also recognize that marketing is everywhere. It's in you telling your kid to eat their vegetables. It's in you getting your husband to take out the garbage. Marketing is everywhere. Um, and so then when we turn around and shine that on our businesses, that lights me up too. I love seeing individuals be able to put the puzzle pieces together and then start booking engagements and bringing in the clients. It's fulfilling. It doesn't make me special. I really don't think it does. I think I'm still doing my job. I'm still running my business. I honestly never look at it like I'm leading. Like even at our annual session where we had such great comments about our Weevolution meeting we just had, it always kind of surprises me a little bit because I don't go in looking for that. I'm not even thinking about that. I'm more thinking about, how can we up our game on education? Who can we bring in this year that's going to dial it in even further? How can we help them network more? And I think if there's anything about the way I'm wired, um, for, it's interesting how other people see you, but knowing by taking different assessments, like I'm wired as an achiever. Like I could have told you that even when I was probably in third grade. That like have to be the one that reads all the books in the class, right? So like I remember our teacher put some kind of a symbol at the top, all the way around the corners of the room for how many books you've read, and I had to be all the way out in front of others. And it's not even a competition about doing more than others. It's just more like I want to achieve. And I think if anything, if I'm being really transparent, that drives me. And then just the idea too of helping others really does drive me. And so if that's what keeps me working long hours and into the weekend, because it's fun.
Okay, so you just said a lot.
I know those.
No, no,
I was thinking that too.
no, it was amazing. So there's something I want to point out before we head in a direction, and that is that like I got into dentistry just because my dad started a dental supply company when I was 14. So I wasn't like in dentistry, but meaning I'm going to like Chicago midwinter as a 14-year-old. And I had some really early, like formative kind of
Awesome.
ideas on what dentistry was.
Yeah.
And one of the things that was peculiar to me was how difficult it was to connect with a lot of the dentists, because it's like, oh, how are you doing? How are things going? And everyone was just crushing it. Everyone was doing, amazing. And I'm mainly talking about male dentists here, and I'm not trying to throw them under the rug. But Vanessa, I'm so intrigued because I really feel like the women in dentistry have really elevated the profession over the last decade, because I feel the ability that the women have, and you're talking about Linda Miles, there's yourself, there's Catherine Itobel, there's Ann Duffy, and there's these courageous and slightly crazy in like that good way of like, we're gonna do something so beautiful in the industry by serving, by honoring, by esteeming. And I feel like you guys are light years ahead of the men. Not to make it a gender thing, that's not the point. I'm just saying I want to honor that, like, it has been amazing the way that you collectively have pioneered. And as a man, I just want to like honor that and be like, wow, like I love that Elijah is an includer. Elijah's a pioneer like that. But I can't name quite nearly as many on my hand on the male side. And I'm just wanting to acknowledge that. So
Yeah. It's interesting too, because things are always changing, right? And always in the world. And I think maybe part of that is just like in general in the world where we see shifts as well. And thank you for that acknowledgement. And I think it comes down to heart-centered, beyond we learn, oh, that's a female thing or that's a male thing as we're kids. Like I'm almost 60, right? So like lots of years I've had that ingrained. But I think it comes more down, like another really heart-centered person I'm thinking of is Paul Goodman is definitely an includer and a connector. Like there's definitely, as you start thinking about Alan Stern, you start thinking about different people in our communities that are, and when I think, what do they have in common? Ann Duffy, heart-centered. She's the queen of heart-centered. Yeah.
Well, so Vanessa, thank you for sharing that. So the direction I did want to head in was a lot of the audience that is listening. My whole thing is, I think the future of dentistry is going to be great. Like I know it's going to be great in the next 10 years. My whole question is like, is the listener going to be part of what makes it great, or are they just going to be an observer watching the people that are in the game? Not on the sidelines, but the people that are in the game. And I think one of the fears sometimes of getting in the game is like, well, what if it doesn't work? Like you started Dental Speaker Institute. What if that didn't work? Like there was no guarantees that you'd be able to have the meeting that you just had with Weevolution, which was a complete success, like overwhelming. Like the community you've created is beautiful. But I'm guessing in the humanity of it, when you're about to start something and you start having self-doubts, well, like, am I enough? Like, is there inadequacy? Am I going to look foolish if I fall? Like I'm really good maybe as a clinician, but maybe I'm not quite as good in this area as an entrepreneur, as a visionary. And I think that's where a lot of people are like scared to take that step or to maybe fail in a public way. Did you encounter any of that sort of resistance? And what mindset did you have to either shed or embrace to overcome that?
So there's the inner resistance and there's the outer resistance, right? So there's our mindset, or there's the way an industry could see change, and there could be some that are more scarcity minded and are maybe resistant to seeing. And I think we see examples of that throughout the industry at different times, where there's a little friction created when someone starts something new and different. I would tell you, for me, I I don't, I'm being honest, I don't really think about that much. And I don't know if it's just because of the way I'm wired. I believe that our environment and our experience shape us. And so I grew up in a small community where everybody knew everybody, and I was not a popular kid. You know what I mean? It wasn't like, so I think that shaped me early on to find your path, when you weren't like necessarily in the in group. And Brene Brown talked about this in, I think, Daring Greatly, or one of her amazing books, about kind of always being like an outlier. And I don't know if that's the way I made, to where I don't think about it that much, but I just feel like early on I learned that you kind of can't worry about what other people think. As long as you're not hurting somebody, and you're doing something for, you feel like it's for the greater good. It's like, but for me, I don't know how to better advise those who are listening, other than say that for me, I just don't really give it space in my head. You might notice there's a pushback, or somebody might say something, but I think we control what we put our mind on. And so I look to how good it's gonna feel when you see people coming out of your meeting, being able to do more than they could before, or like you look at those down the line goals. That's what I tend to think on. And you know what? Honestly, I think where I'm a little uncomfortable with this question is because I feel like I don't have a lot of teaching to like tell. But I would tell you, if I'm being authentic about this, the people I hang with are the bomb. So I think in a lot of ways, I just really got lucky. Now I know, I say that I really do believe it was intended for me to be in this community, because I feel like, is it okay if I just like go kind of woo?
Yeah. You be you 1000% right
Woo
now.
me. I'm woo. So if I was just going to talk like non mainstream, I would say I really believe that it flows through us. I believe that there is more than this world. And so when I look at my life, I feel like I'm here for this, there's a purpose. And I 1000% believe that I'm where I was supposed to be. It's just been too easy for me not to, for this to be the right way. Not that it's been super easy, but I haven't just met with obstacle after obstacle. And I would think, if I was going to share anything to anyone, I would say that feel like we have an inner GPS. That one of my favorite quotes is, do you know Abraham Hicks?
No.
Esther Hicks. It's a law of attraction person, and one of her my favorite quotes of hers was, "You check in when you have a decision before you. Check in with your gut, with your core, with that inner GPS. And if for right now it's not a hell yes, then consider it a hell no." And I just love that, because when I met Catherine and I started working with her, it was definitely a yes. And there have been times over the years where something doesn't quite sit right in your gut, and then it's probably a maybe, let it sit for now. And I know this is what others have already heard. This is not shocking neuroscience or anything, but we don't always pay attention to that. And I feel like when we do listen to our gut, we're going to be guided. I mean really, like, listen and act on our gut instinct. I knew Dental Speaker Institute needed to be born. I knew it. I knew that dental speakers would benefit from having help with their marketing, because I knew too many that were like, well, how do I get meeting planners to find me? I mean, over the last 20 years, things have changed a lot in how we market and everything. But back in the day, it was like, if you weren't like a certain set of people that were already well known, it was really hard to be noticed. And so, I knew that there were outcomes that needed to happen in order to help people. And so when you feel like you can connect an action with this desired outcome, I guess that's why I don't really worry about what others might think, or might the meeting not work out well, because I feel like I'm working with such a great group of people that all bring such amazing knowledge and skill to what they have to offer, that it just clicks. This probably isn't making sense.
Vanessa, that is such a great just example of what like mature, aligned thinking can look like, where you don't have to live with anxiety. You don't have to, I don't know, second guess what you're doing. You can just kind of have this inner peace and just be excited and aligned with the fulfillment of like what you're doing, instead of just this inner angst. A lot of people live with inner angst all the time because they're
Yeah.
never feeling like they're enough or they're
Oh
measuring
yeah.
up.
Yeah.
My own struggles with work, and with birthing something is just like, I get scared when I launch something into the marketplace. I don't know if that comes from some deep insecurity. It probably does. Which is so crazy because I knew I was loved when I was a kid. Like my parents were amazing. Um, and yet still there's always some, for me, there's always some like new horizon of, I don't want to say challenge, but like of some area where growth is happening, and oftentimes growth, like
Sure.
hypertrophy, is that
Always.
that straining, right? That stretching. I'm curious, have you had like a dark night of the soul in the last 22 years where it was either hard to get up, or I don't know, maybe you just had more doubt than you've ever had before? And I only ask, Vanessa, because when we look at like the worst case scenario and we think of like I love Elijah's stories, when all of a sudden COVID happened and he's in the dental industry and he's in
In the
a company
meeting
that,
industry. Boom, boom.
yes, and
Lightning
cruises,
slam shut.
and everything shut down. It's like, when you find out how amazing people that have their back against the wall figure out how to continue to rise above it or get back up or be resilient. Um, and again, if that's not your story, you don't like,
No, I got something to share. Yeah. But it's okay if I go?
yeah.
So, I don't have anything that's like super tragic, thankfully. But I think it's all of us have times we would struggle, and I really believe what's helped me the most. Partly, I think partly the way I am wired tends to be more Pollyanna, more. I tend to lean to the positive. It's just how I'm built, even when I was a little kid. So I think I've gotten that helps me. But the self development work I've done over the years, where I just lean into, like, early on Wayne Dyer, Deepak Chopra, Tony Robbins, that kind of stuff. And then over the years, it's been many, many, many dozens of philosophers and teachers that have come before us that help us with exactly this. How can we recognize that we all have those automatic negative thoughts, and what can we do to recognize them and stop them sooner? And how do we learn those habits to help us not spiral out? Some of the things that have helped me the most, because I mean, yes, I've had challenges. We've all had challenges. Some that did, from a personal side, just cut me down to the core. What brought me through was my belief in what's going on here, meaning on this planet, meaning me being a spiritual being in a physical body. What's going on here, and what is there for me to learn? My deep belief is that in all things, especially the challenges, I attract that. I really believe that. I believe there's something there for me to learn, even in those things that I would say are the most challenging. I mean, that's where our learning occurs, not in the feathered nest and comfort. So for me, it's what really helps me at this point is a couple things. So like if I go more mainstream, what we talk about would be like business coaching. Like I've had some exceptional business coaching over the years, which taught me like you pivot quickly, you like fill the faults. There's like certain things you do when things like COVID happen. But from a more personal and a spiritual side, one of the very best things I've ever done is become a daily meditator. Because when you first thing, I steal this RPM from David G with Chopra Center. Rise, P, meditate. Rise, P, meditate. Your RPM. When you get up, get out of bed, but don't turn the light on. Go to the bathroom, come back, sit down. You're awake, but you're not in the day. Don't look at the phone. Don't look at the phone, because then you lost it. But when you're still in that twilight feeling, prayer would be very similar. My meditations can go 15 to 30 minutes. If somebody prays that long, that's fabulous. But with the meditation, you're sitting there when you actually, with breath work, and I have certain mantras that can just bring me, it's intended for me to bring me internally. It's intended to set up my day. I have habitual ways I start and end my meditation. And one of the last things I always say as I get ready to come, as I'm coming back out, and ready to be back in this reality, I give thanks for those that I give thanks to Source Energy for helping to connect us with those who seek the services we offer and that are ready to engage. It's one of the last things, not please send me clients. It's thank you, because they always do find their way. And I find that then I get up and I come to my email later and I'm like, oh, somebody wants to sponsor the meeting, or, oh, someone's referred someone. It's like what I learned a long time ago. And, my one of my other passions is business advisory. And so I always tend to go there. But one of the things I learned a long time ago about our businesses and like trying to facilitate, own a business and facilitate this multi-profit centered thing we've created here with the personal life. Oh yeah, and by the way, we have a cat sanctuary and a whole bunch of cats we take care of every day, and like there's all these things that can be overwhelming. So even if it's not a big tragedy or something, it's more like just in the day to the day to the day. I find that if I can start my day and end my day by going inward, however you do that, focus on your breathing, pray, meditate, whatever you do, but go inward. All the health benefits are there. Definitely the health benefits. You'll sleep better. You'll probably lose weight. You'll probably like all these things. But the very best thing I think for me is the mindset. It keeps my brain channeled, or like the channel like tuned in to where I mentally know I want to go. So when, like right now, I'm in the middle of this big computer switchover. You can't see the mess I've got here. I've got 4 monitors. I've got 3 keypads. I've got dongles hanging off of everything. And that's why when we got on, I'm like, what? Help me with this microphone and this webcam. So even in like the craziness of life, you can still stop, and you've trained your brain to be able to go internal and find that like, oh my gosh, that's the $1 million thought right there. If anybody takes anything from this, it's just learning how to train yourself, train your breathing, train your mind to be able to find the peace. Because all those other things we talked about just fall into place. Because the truth is there is something bigger going on here. And if you just get quiet enough, you'll figure it out. You'll know, you'll feel where to go, you'll feel the way, you'll be guided. Whatever your belief system is, it will unfold. And we just have to trust. And I don't trust blindly. I trust off of almost 60 years of seeing how it works every time. Hallelujah. Amen.
I was gonna say, if you keep going, I'm gonna have to charge you, because this is turning into like a spiritual session where you're advising me. I don't know who that was for. I don't know if it was for anyone else, but it was absolutely for me, Vanessa, because I'm a deeply spiritual person, and I've gone through seasons of my life where, as I am not very mature about how I'm handling what's on my plate, I get into this, I need to do more. And in doing more, I actually lose Like I lose my foundation of inward connection. I lose that sense of being wholehearted.
Yeah.
And I keep like sensing I need to slow it down at the foundation, like you're saying, in the beginning of the day and at the end of the day, in the foundation of my life where I can control, I need to slow things down. I need to not feel like I have to do because it actually comes out like when I'm with you, Vanessa, you are such an aligned person that is
Mm.
centered, that is present. And like from my perspective, the word that I would use would be like there's such a beautiful fragrance that just comes out of you.
Mm.
Because I feel like you are connected.
Mm.
So I sense that, I pick up on that. Like it is 100% beautiful. It's inspiring. And at the same time, I feel like that, okay, like I know I've been hearing this, but I just need to slow things down for my own health. Like I feel like things are starting to get out of control, or have, and that's just confirmation that I need to do that. And that's so like countercultural. And yet I think it's the message that everyone listening to this needs to hear.
Yeah.
Yes, you have, like Vanessa, it's coming from you who just said you have ambition, like wild ambition, and you've had it since you were
Yeah.
little. So it's
I
like
am
to our
an
listeners,
achiever and a learner. Right now,
right?
I'm in the middle of two massive certification programs on top of all the other things too, right?
And I love that. So it's like if people are listening today, it's like you're ambitious, you have desires to be part of what makes dentistry great.
Yeah.
And here Vanessa's kind of challenging all of us to like just slow it down. Like don't lose
That,
track of your heart in to stay connected. And I don't mean slow it down in the pace of your day. I mean take the time to get connected and get centered first and then let your life flow out of that.
this is the most important thing we could talk about, you know, and I'm on a journey like everyone else. And people frequently tell me, oh, you're so calming. Um, and that's awesome, except that I don't always feel that way internally. You know what I mean? So like, I'm just saying like, I'm on that path too. And I believe that it's a daily exercise, just like we brush our teeth, just like we shower, just like we do all our vitamins, all the things we do. This is another thing we do daily to maintain, because it's easy to get out of the habit and then get out of the habits. But when we make it a habit to, I mean, just because I recognize that whoever's listening to this is probably coming from a wide range of backgrounds. And some people might be like, yeah, that's a little too woo for me. And others might be like, yeah, give me more. And so, what I would say is like right there in the middle, science. There's so, right now I'm doing one of the Chopra Center, Deepak Chopra Center certification. I've done the total health and well-being certification. I'm working on their meditation certification. I'm going to do their coaching certification. And so in the process of going through all of this, there's just, I mean, literally dozens and dozens and dozens of articles written by doctors and scientists who have studied, the effects of just breath work, just focusing on our breath and what that does to our overall body. All the studies that show how we can lower the inflammation in our body by, you don't have to be a 30-minute morning and night meditator. You can just maybe set an alarm on your phone for every couple of hours to go off, where you just stop it for a couple of minutes. You just focus on your breathing. Like, it doesn't have to be woo. It doesn't have to be like, to some people it would feel like, oh, I don't know about that. But this is mainstream. This is fact. This is science. And so you can take it with a spiritual edge or not. I mean, a lot of people meditate. Meditation is not a spiritual act. It's not.
Right.
It's just quieting. I choose to use it to touch into that inner being, but you don't have to look at it that way. I really do think it's the same with praying. I really do. When someone prays with intent and belief, I feel like we're dealing with that same energetic truth. And I hope it's okay that this whole thing has gone off the rails from like business off of spirituality.
No, I innovation begins with the person that gets out of their own way and can become connected, aligned, and centered so that they can actually believe that the message that's in them, the idea that's in them, the solution that they are meant to bring into dentistry if they don't make those connections, they stay on the sideline. And I don't want them on the sideline. You and
That's
me are
right.
telling them, join us, like get in the game.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
We want to be shoulder to shoulder because I feel like it's almost like, I don't want to say we're in an army, but we're all on the same side. And there's some people that haven't taken their place yet. So there's some empty areas where there isn't that person's energy. And because of that, we're actually missing this energy that we could get. So it's like,
True
even in a
story.
selfish way, I want everyone to step up into the fullness of who they can be because it doesn't compete with me and you. We're all completely unique. It just enhances the value that we can bring when people just own who they are. So that's my message. So what you're
Yeah.
saying is right at the center of that, Vanessa. Like
Yeah.
this is amazing.
Uh, I love this conversation, and also love talking about growing businesses. And I feel like it's hand in hand. And for me, to kind of put a period on that whole sentence there of earlier is really when we can sit back and kind of be an observer in our life. And I do think it's more of a retreating in, and that's maybe what you sense when like people say how, oh, I'm so calming. It's like I try to listen as I'm coaching or as I'm doing, as I'm in conversation like this. I try to listen and be guided. And I think that if we can just learn to kind of sit back into ourselves and pay best. I heard somebody say, I think it was Dr. Sue Morter years ago, say, the best thing our mind can do is pay attention to how our gut feels. Like this would be the most important activity for it, is how are we feeling in our gut? Do I really need to eat that? Should I get up and move? Should I have talked that way? How could I talk? Like if we could just lean in, our answers are always internal. So whether it's the vagus nerve, no matter, whatever it is that's having us feel that way, I don't know that answer, but I can tell you that it will never steer you wrong. You've never heard someone say, well, I listened to my gut and boy, what I wish I would have done that. They never say that. When they truly listen to their gut. And I really believe it's the answer for everything. The answer for everything. I feel like we weren't sent here to this life without a direct connection back to where we came from and to where we're going. I do feel like there's those mediums of communication, whether it be this internal GPS, whether it's the prayer, whether it's the whatever rituals or whatever. I really believe that there is a connection. It's just challenging for us while we're here on this planet doing our human things to stay in the day to day. Like yesterday morning, you know how hot it is here, Shawn. It's like 103 here today in the Phoenix, right? So yesterday we were out there in the heat putting up an umbrella, in the heat, and it's like sometimes it's challenging to like remember, like, okay, turn inward. But the more we can practice it, I just really believe that it all comes together. Relationships, money. The money's everywhere. The money is all around us. It's us that blocks it. The more we can be quiet and inward, the more we're going to be listen to the invitations, like you reaching out to say, hey, would you like to be on my podcast, or someone else referring you to someone else. Like the more you can go inward, you can pay attention to what's coming your way. Follow those paths. Those are doors. Follow those paths. Me wrapping it back to where we started, me deciding I would be a life coach all those years ago, and thought, well, how do I get started? Well, I'm going to create an email campaign. Well, the only person that hired me was Linda Miles. And then Linda started telling so many people how I was her coach. And then that was a doorway. That was a path. That was a doorway. That was me listening to, how should I market this? What I would leave you with this thought on this is this: we make it harder than it has to be. And if you, listener, are a person of faith, lean into that. Lean into it. And I'm not religious. I have no religious affiliation. This is not what this is. It's more of, it just feels obvious to me. There's something more going on here than me out in the heat in 100 degrees putting up an umbrella. It's like, what's the purpose of that? The purpose I feel is that we're here to learn, to get to know each other, to connect, to have relationships. We're going to learn through those relationships. Business is no different. I would encourage, I'm just like on a rampage here.
I'm letting you go. I'm letting you go.
I would encourage your listener to just say, screw it. I'm going to try this. I don't know if it's going to work out or not, but I feel compelled to do this. And when those little voices pop in, that's what I say. And I am so not. I am just a farm girl from northeastern Arizona. Like, I don't even have a college degree, Shawn. I'm just I'm your neighbor. I'm just a person. I'm not like somebody to put on a pedestal. I'm just somebody who likes to work. I really do like to work, and I really do like to achieve, and I really do enjoy the community I'm in and helping serve them. And that's like just authentic, not like, oh, look at me. It's no, like truly like, this is what I like. This is what I enjoy doing. So I would encourage each of your listeners to, what is it for you? Where do you feel pulled? I felt pulled toward Catherine and speaking and consulting, even though I remember going, I don't know what the heck a speaker and consultant does. I remember feeling now like I have no idea what to do here. Just keep taking that next step in a direction that feels like, I think I should. I think I should, because I promise you, I just got goosebumps, head to toe goosebumps. I promise you, that's where all the juice is. That's where all the joy is.
Okay, so Vanessa, I liked you a lot before this podcast. I don't know how we're both in the same like town, city, whatever you want to call it.
From each other.
And I've still never actually like hung out or connected.
We need to.
But our time is due. This has just been.
Come to expansion in January, Shawn, because we're going to be doing more of this at expansion.
Okay, but I'm not going to wait till January to hang out with you. Let me take you out to lunch, something. Anyway, okay, let me end with this. Back, let's see. You said in 2001, June 3rd. Okay, so Vanessa of today is walking past Vanessa of June 3rd, 2001, and you have one sentiment that you can communicate to her. What do you say?
One sentiment to her that was walking up to the door to come in and open the door to a new life. Oh, this makes me emotional. Grab it, go. This is where you need to be. And at that time, I was just about to take a job working as in a surgical center, as a practice manager for a surgical center. It was a risk, but I felt I would like this more. I felt like this is where I need to be. I think what I would say to her is, yes, go. You know that you need to listen to your gut.
Okay, well, I'm not supposed to tear up, so you got me, Vanessa. Let me just say, it has been such an honor. I love where this went. It is a gift to dentistry. It's a gift to our listeners. I am so on your side. Whatever you need, however I can help amplify what you're doing, I am just for you, and I'm thankful that I'm even in your community. So, Vanessa, thank you so much for letting me interview you today.
Oh, it was really a pleasure. It's always a delight to spend time with you, and we're going to be doing more of that. Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you. Thanks for listening, and be sure to follow so you never miss an episode. To learn more about what's going on in dentistry, check out innovationindentistry.com.